and then Phil will present us with a safety minute, and that'll be followed by a presentation on turning a desktop roulette game by me. We'll take a short refreshment break after that, and then we'll get on to the challenge table and the show and tell table. And during intermission, Michael, Mike's selling tickets to our dollar sweepstakes, which has a variety you get a pick from back there on the table. Please take a look at that. Oh, getting into our announcements, and I apologize. I'm reading all this off my phone, so bear with me. Kevin announced today, he sent out an email and said we have 105 paid members now, so we've gained 4 from last month. That's good. I want to welcome all of our new members, or our newer members, and I want to thank all of our returning members for renewing this year and being back with us. New members that are here, if you didn't know, you can pick up your membership cards in an index box back there, or if you haven't gotten your name tag for the first time, it's usually paper clipped to your name tag too. So please know to grab that. Don Frank has once again brought in some wood blanks. Do we have any left now, Don? All right, Don brought in some very nice flamed box elder wood blanks. He'll probably bring some more next month if he can. But they've already sold out, so hope you had a chance to get one of those. Also, Shane, hold your hand up, Shane. Shane brought in he had bought a batch of garden shovels, little garden shovels, and it's the end, and you're intended to turn a handle for them. But he's got them back there. And Shane, was you just saying that a donation towards the club is what you're asking? Barter with Kevin. He'll work you a deal. But if you're interested, it's the right time of year because we're getting ready for that garden time. So that'd be a fun little project. This month's challenge drawing will get a $10 craft supply gift certificate. And the dollar sweepstakes winner will get a choice from the 4 or 5 items set out there. We've got some exotic wood pin blanks. We've got a couple of ash bowl blanks or platter blanks. We've got a sanding disc holder. Those are nice. And then we've got a face mask, and of course we've got the multimeter. We've got the multimeter. It's still here. Nobody's taking it, so you still got that opportunity. And just in case you didn't know, Anthony Harris, our Turner here, our club member and teacher, does offer. I just want everybody to know that he does offer paid training sessions if you're interested. And he said even if you want to, split the cost, you can have 2 or 3 people. He said he probably wouldn't suggest more than 3 because it gets a little time consuming to go back and forth between them. But see Anthony if you're all interested in that. It's a great way to kind of get a good start on certain tools, or if you got a certain project that you had in mind that you wanted to get to a certain place, Anthony can probably get you there. Also, just wanted to say thanks for everybody that stopped by and took advantage of the wood and tool and equipment sale of our past member, Tony Giordano. His widow's going to benefit primarily from that, but the club did reap some of the sales from that. So we've still got items left. If you want to wander back there and take a look, we've had a few things sell out or sell today, and I'm sure Kevin will make a deal with you. So feel free to go back there, and you may grab a handful of miscellaneous, but you'll get them for a steal. So please take a look. There are some bigger items back there too that I think an email is going to go out with some of those pictures and give others opportunity to get those. Moving on to open shop. As everybody mostly knows, we're available every Saturday morning from 8:30 till 12 p.m., but it usually extends past 12 p.m. anymore. And then Wednesday and Thursday evenings from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., except for the third Wednesday of each month, which is the guild's meeting night. So we don't open shop on that. If you use the shop, please help keep it clean. Also, there's a doorbell on the back door if you ever show up for open shop and the front doors are locked, which is the case if there's no woodworker or the woodworker field guys aren't out here. There's a doorbell on the back door, and we do hear it, and we do know what it is when it goes off. So we'll go back and open the door. If nobody comes, I imagine that nobody's here, but that shouldn't be the case. I do want everybody, if you haven't already and you're using the shop, please sign the shop waiver. It's just a CYA for the club. They're back there in the bowl as you go in by the sign up sheet. If you haven't signed one, please get them signed. You can leave them in the bowl and then we'll get them to Kevin next chance we get. And we've got a running list of everybody that's signed in. Also, I'd really like it if we could, during open shop, if we get better at signing in, just if you're the first one there, put the date and your name. But if everybody as they're walking in could sign in, it's not to track that you were there. We're going to come after you because something's missing and your name's there. It's literally just to kind of see how the shop's being used and kind of evaluate how many people we're getting of the evenings and of the Saturdays. So please try to do that. Also, for David Alexander's sanity, please do not abuse the bandsaw and feel comfortable to ask for assistance if you need to. I joke, but David takes care of that bandsaw and he's had to maintain it quite a bit lately. So just don't abuse it. A new part has been ordered for the Delta lathe, and we're hoping to get it back in order. But for right now, it's not usable. We'll make an announcement when it's back up and running. And then if you are using the shop and you do see something that's got a problem, just let one of the board members or me know, and we'll see if we can't get it addressed. Okay, that gets me through my open shop. Now we get to help wanted. We still need some additional shop openers and really more for backup openers. Anthony is here a lot of the Thursdays and Wednesdays, even though we've got a few other main openers. But if we had some backups all just in case, that would be good. I know that we have over the last few months, we have gained a couple, so thank you. And then Phil Sykes has been posting KCWT content on Instagram and Facebook accounts, and he's always looking for members' photos and content. So if you ever have anything that you have taken some good photos of and know the process that you went through, write a little write-up in it, shoot those over to Phil. It's philsykes@gmail.com. I think in the newsletter or in the wood chips, I think that's usually repeated if you don't have anything to write that down or don't want to write it down right now. But it's just good publicity for us if we get a lot of things out there on there, and he is taking his time to get it all set up and ready. And I think we've thrown a few things out there over the last few months. So thank you, Phil. Let's see. And finally, C. Mike Thomas, if you have a demonstration to share, you know of a demonstrator, or if you have a demonstration you would like to see. He's looking to fill up our calendar for this year, so anything helps. And I guess my comment would be, it does improve you as a wood turner to take and put yourself out there and do a demo. I don't know tangibly how you measure that, but it is beneficial to you to do a demo. So you may think it's nothing, but it may open up the eyes to somebody else, or you may even get an opportunity to have some comments that lead you to improvement on what you're demonstrating too. So
okay, we had a request for someone to demonstrate turning a bowl on a bias. You know what that is? This is what, okay, Jack Carson's did this years ago, and you take a perfect cube, has to be pretty darn close, and you put it one corner of the cube in here, the other corner of the cube, you know, out the tails, the life center on there, and you start turning it. But you turn it, anyway, it comes out to where it's a bowl where there's three corners on the top and three opposite corners on the bottom, so it's got a stand. Anyway, I don't know anybody, looking for somebody who could demonstrate how to turn a bowl on a bias. So if you're interested in that, or come talk to me, because that would be a great demo.
Or take it on as a challenge and try it.
Anyway, thanks.
All right. Okay. Let's see. Last but not least on my upcoming activities here, Anthony is planning on rescheduling his basic bowl turning class that he had to cancel because of his health there. He said that he's looking at a date in late May. We haven't pinned that date down, but we'll shoot out an email with that information as soon as we kind of firm up that date. And finally, Ann Molina, our Texas member, wants all of our KC members to consider attending the Southwest Association of Turners Symposium. That's SWAT. You probably heard us talk about SWAT. It runs August 22nd through the 24th in Austin, Texas. And let me see. Let me know if you would like me to forward a flyer, because she has sent me a flyer. So if you're interested in SWAT at all, talk to me and give me your email address. I'll shoot you the flyer.
Hey, Chris.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said Austin. I got written down Austin. That's terrible. And sorry.
Yeah, it's Waco.
Okay.
And the web page is SWATturners.org with 1 T, and that will give you
SWATturners.org with 1 T, and that'll get you to the information, right, Ann?
Yes, and also there's a Facebook page.
Okay. There's a Facebook page also, and then I wanted to say registration has already begun. I think it begun this last weekend, and see Mike if you have any interest, because Mike's got a couple of rooms that are already booked, so that you might be able to work in on that. It ends up that it's the same weekend as Baylor's family night or family weekend, so our parents weekend. So they are the rooms are filling up fast. So that
It is SWA Turners.
SWA Turners. SWAturners.org. Okay. Thank you, Rob. And I apologize. But I do have a flyer if anybody wants it. I bet you the flyer says Waco Nuts. Okay. Last but not least on our announcements here, if you're looking for project information, instructions, or ideas, we do have a library of information back there. Please use the resources back there if you can. I think Ed keeps them up to date and everything for us. Also, we've got the website is probably the best place to get information. Watch for your monthly Wood Chips newsletter to come out. It'll have a lot of the announcements and things reiterated in it. Or just ask one of the board members, and if I can get the board members to raise up their hands, any of us can probably answer questions for you or get you some information if you need it. That gets me through my announcements this week. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Phil for our monthly safety minute. So Phil, I'm going to power down and let you power up.
Good evening, everybody. I got something really exciting to talk about. Wood duck. How many of you love wood ducks? How many of you love wood duck in your lawn? Hopefully nobody. You do? Okay, we got one. We joke, but prolonged exposure to wood ducks can cause your immune system to be weakened and to become more susceptible to irritants and other issues that can be caused by wood ducks. So what are some of those things? The main things, I think the worst things are respiratory issues, simple allergical reactions, or nasal dryness. I don't know if anyone has nasal dryness around here. Extended colds, or what I like to call the Woodturner's cough. Has anyone had a Woodturner's cough? Just me? Chris? There we go. All right. Chronic bronchitis, pneumonia, obstructed airways. As we go on, these things get more severe. But ultimately, extended exposure to wood duck can cause cancer. It's considered a carcinogen, which is linked to various kinds of lung and other throat cancers, nasal cancer. So take the precautions against wood dust in your shop, wherever you're working, even if you're working outside. There might be a lot of dust floating in the air. It's good to take precautions. The other thing that people don't think about with wood dust is skin irritations. And these are generally going to be woods that tend to be more irritating or have more allergic reactions to the outside of your skin. So things just like contact dermatitis means you have red little spots on your skin. Itchiness, rashes, skin scaling. And I did not look up a picture of these. I don't want to. I believe we have a doctor in the house. He might be able to tell us a little bit more about these. And then blisters. Now, I've never seen anyone get blisters from an allergic reaction to wood, but I'm told it can happen. And especially with exotic woods or woods that have various other chemicals inside them. I once turned some black walnut, and I generally don't have an issue with black walnut, but there was some kind of sediment in the ground that was up in that tree that really irritated. So from one day to the next, you might be fine turning maple one day, and you might not the next day. So good precautions to take. Simplest precaution is just to wear a dust mask whenever you're working in an area, specifically if you're doing any kind of sandy or dusty work. On the lathe, where we might be using a lot of wet wood, but there still is dust and particles that come off the wood at that too. But especially if we're turning dry wood, you want to use at least some kind of a dust mask, even like a nuisance mask. I'd say ever since 2020, I always have a nuisance mask around my shop. I have a box of them. So they're never in short supply. They're pretty cheap and inexpensive. And if that's all you're going to do, that's at least going to help out to help keep dust down out of your lungs. Better yet, to have some sort of an N95 respirator or even a small, I think they call them a Pete 100 respirator, which just has like little pads on the side, and it's usually made out of plastic or silicone and kind of attached to your face a little bit better. Or you can go all the way up to a powered respirator that's going to have a full mask and shield and a power pack and fan, and you look kind of like a spaceman. Glenn Lucas wears one, so if everybody likes Glenn Lucas, he wears a powered respirator when he's working with us. But even simple things like if you are working with a new wood you've never worked with before, maybe it's an exotic wood, or maybe you are susceptible to allergies from wood dust. Wearing proper clothing at the lathe, but also when you're not at the lathe, it's going to be helpful. And even nitrile gloves. I know we're not supposed to wear gloves when we work at the lathe, but those little rubbery gloves that break and snap really easy. I've used those when I've been working with irritating materials that I don't want to get off the skin. And then in your shop, who has an air cleaner in their shop hanging from the ceiling, on a shelf, somewhere on the floor maybe, or who uses a dust collector here at the lathe? I tell you what, I got a dust collector from Harbor Freight. It's the cheapest dust. Wow, I can't talk tonight. Dust collector you could have gotten 10 years ago, but it still works just fine. It's noisy and it pulls dust and it works great. So you don't have to buy something big and fancy, but if you're working with a lot of dust, doing a lot of sanding, a dust collector, a shop vac is really loud. That'll even work too. And if you want to get real fancy, you can make a little hood that comes over your lathe and it helps to keep all that dust going into the machine and away from your body. Having an open window, in your shop, if you have a window in your shop, hopefully most of you have some kind of window, having that fresh air being able to come in is great too. So we're not in winter anymore. We're coming into summer, but please don't forget about your dust mask. Please take care of your lungs, and please take care of your wood as well. And now, introducing our demonstrator for tonight, Chris.
Thanks, Bill. Oh. Haven't seen y'all for a long time. Let's see. Okay. So tonight, if I can snap things onto my column here, I got that one, and I'll get this turned on. And all right. Okay. So I got some sound there. Okay. I'm just going to start out telling you kind of why I did these and what I literally was on Pinterest one time, clicking through, just looking at different wood things, and I saw this little disc that had little dots on it and it had a top on it, and I'm like, well, that looks easy enough. So I made one of the little discs, and I put the holes in it, and I spun the top, and the beads went everywhere. I guess I was more forceful with my top than they were. So I decided okay, how can I change that? And I decided, well, what I need is a wall. So this is one of my very first ones that I did. And it did have a little bit of a wall to kind of catch the beads, but it did not stop them from hitting that and then bouncing off the other side. So I turned a ring to put on it, only to find out that I'd turned this one out of green wood and it went out of round. And so my ring didn't fit on it. So I just used some putty tape, paint, some artist putty and stuck it on there. But that gave me the wall that I needed so that when the beads are in the center and you start this thing turning, they are not going to fly. They're going to bounce off the wall and stay in the thing. So I kind of took that and started running with, well, that's kind of cool. And I got in here and was talking to somebody and he goes, well, what if you put plexiglass and use plexiglass? So that's, I did this one and I don't know, I had a segmented ring that I put together and I found another piece and it's pretty small and the beads inside there are actual beads. So they've got holes on two sides of them for stringing wire through. And so every now and then they don't roll very good, but it works okay. The problem is that plexiglass, if the top gets on there just right, it just goes nuts. So I decided, well, then if I left them open, you know, what do I need to do? And I decided, well, what I needed was a wall around it that would be curved on the inside to kind of loop the beads back down into the what I call the arena. So I call this the arena, I call this the stadium. And then it's, you know, how do you mark the holes to drop them in? How many holes? What are the rules? There are no rules. That's another thing that's nice about being the maker of the item. You get to make up the rules. So I evolved that one and said, well, what about if you made it so that you could put the top on and have it in a lid so that it's at least enclosed so your dog doesn't come over and eat beads all the time. And this lid, I actually thought I had it tight and then I cut a little bit too much off the tenon and then it was not even looped. It just kind of sets on there. This one here, I did create the divot so that I could either put a lid or maybe come back and put plexiglass on it. But right now, I mean, it's just two different woods, one to make the arena and one to make the stadium. This was, you see, it doesn't always work. Some of those tops are a little more aggressive than others. The same deal. I just shaped it a little different. I did cup this one in a little bit more. And then this was one of the latter ones that I had some leftover rings or segments from cutting the corners off of this that I ended up gluing up into a ring and creating a ring then that I just put onto a smaller one. And I usually put 12 holes in these larger ones, and the one we'll talk about tonight, I only put 8 holes on this one. And then I made a plexiglass that just kind of friction fits in there. And I shouldn't have snapped it down because intentionally I did it so that you could use the top to pull it off. But the nice thing about that is that then it's self-contained and it doesn't, you know, lose your beads and everything like that. But it does actually work better when it's out. When I do it this way, it goes good for a while and then it goes spastic when it catches that ring. It should happen. Maybe it'll all.
Okay.
There. So that's been my experiment. What started it out, and this one here, I was trying to make it so that it would go in the holes and then and actually go down the hole and separate it into sections so that you could
Okay.
put points on the different sections and see what you could get points wise. Never really evolved that one. It got a little too involved, and I was like, I still, this one sat around on our table behind the couch, and I would spin it every time I'd walk by, and so now I've got 5 of them, and I spin all of them and walk away, and my wife's like, "What are you doing?" Tonight, when I'm done, I did make up many sets of, I think I got about 25 sets of 15 beads. So anybody that wants to try this, I got 15 beads, and I've got some wood blanks to make the tops out of. I'm not going to teach you how to turn the top tonight because Jerry Darter already gave you all the information you need. I do have some of these that have the Corian or the solid surface material. So if you wanted to try that, the weight is nice on the tops. So those are there for you all after the demonstration. Come up here and check things out, ask me questions. Question is, what beads do I use? And yes, that is exactly what they are. And the reason I can give you 15 in multiples is because I got 2,000 of them and I don't need but about 12 of them. So if I run out there, ask me, I got more beads. But what I found was they bounce real good, they react real good, and they're cheap and they're easy to get a hold of. And they're consistent and they don't have holes in both ends of them to string a bead through. So they're nice and round and everything. Let's see. One of the things that drove me to this project also is I would end up with flatwood, you know, board, and what can I do with this? I don't work with flat board that's 3/4 inch thick, and so that was another thing that intrigued me about this. Well, I could do half of it with a 3/4 inch piece, and then the other half with a 3/4 inch piece. So I typically I got these from a friend that was kiln dried, and they're obviously thicker than 3/4, but I usually trim a little bit off the outsides anyway, because the outside's a little bit more flaky than once you get into the wood a little bit farther. But I start out with basically 7x7, or what I wanted you to be able to use is like a 1x8. If you took a 1x8 and just cut 2 squares off of a 1x8, then you got really what you need to kind of start with. So I'm starting with 2 squares. I'm marking the corners, I'm putting a circle on it, and I'm cutting off my angles just to make the turning go faster. I have done these where I glued, or not glued, but I used double stick tape on a larger face plate, but used that to stick my wood to. I did that when I had really flat, nice kiln dried wood. I knew that I'd get a good seal. With this stuff, I'm not as comfortable that I get that seal from the tape, so I'm just going to use a face plate. And the first thing I'm going to do, let's see, Rob, can you bring up that PowerPoint or the PDFs anyway? Okay. So if you go to the next slide, I think I'm just showing you, yeah, the basic steps that we're going to go through is I'm going to show you how to turn the arena and show you how to mark the divots, or mark the locations for the divots in the arena floor. And then I'll turn a stadium ring. And then the next step would be to glue the stadium ring. But I'm not going to make you wait on that because I've got one already glued up that we'll use. You don't really until you get to the, well, really, there's not any particular part of the this process that really needs the tailstock, because I'm either on a chuck or a face plate. I did bring it out, so maybe I'll find a use for it later. I have not used this one for a while, so bear with me while I get used to it. Right. First thing is I'm going to take a little bit off of this face and get down to a flat face. Actually, no, I'm going to turn it around first. I do most of my work. The next slide, Rob, did it show the tools? Because really most of what I'm going to be doing is going to be a spindle gouge and a cutoff tool, and I do use a scraper to kind of get a good face on the inside, so we'll be using that. All right, let's roll down, see where we can get. Yeah, you left me dust on the other day. Now I could be using it and probably should be using a roughing guide to do this. We tend to use a spindle guide for a lot of things. And knocking those corners off sure saves a lot of time when you're turning to getting it around. Okay, around now. So that's keeping out the maximum diameter, but I do see a crack here in the edge that I'm going to try to get, and I do have a little bit of a flat there, so I'm going to take it down a little bit. I've put some dimensions. I did send a PDF of kind of what's coming or what's on my presentation to Kevin, and I think he can get it posted on the website so you can get through that in the library. Because what I was saying there was I put some diameter or some dimensions on that, but really it's wide open. The dimensions that I put were based on using a 1x8 at 7 1/4 by 7 1/4 to start out with. Where that thing is. I'll go down below it, and then I'm going to glue to the rest of it, so we should be okay on that. So now all I'm going to do is take a little bit of thickness off of it and get a good straight face on it. My hopes is, if I do this good, this face is going to be the bottom of the arena. So this is what's going to set on the floor ultimately. And I'm just trying to get down under some of that more punky wood on the top face. All right, and I like to have this to just check and see if I'm flat, and I'm not. I'm flared out on the outer edges, so I can kind of hopefully fix that a little bit. Ultimately, I'm going to put a mortise right in the middle of that, so I'm not so worried about the very middle, but it's these outer edges. Oh, I don't like that at all. Let's see how we can get that move across there. Live with that. Yeah, one more. For some reason, flanging out right here. That. And like I say, I'm just trying to get it flat so when it's done, it'll set flat on the table. I'm a little high in the center there. I'm going to call that close enough. Okay. I am going to make a mortise in the face of that will fit. Fit my dovetail chuck that I like to use. I like the dovetail best. Okay. get me a start with a cutoff tool. I'm just gonna make me an indention in there. Get low enough. And I don't need to go too far. If you're working with a true 3/4 inch thick, and it's a good kiln dried board that you bought somewhere, you probably 1/8 inch is probably all the deeper that you need to go. I got a little bit more room here, and I've got people right out in front of me, so I think I'll go a little deeper on there. Metal out of this. There's about 1 million different ways to do this. I'll go at it that way. And then I love this little flat thing. Put that last little bit flat. Little flat nose scraper. Nice and flat there. And now the last thing I want to do is take a skew to get me to my little angle that I need for my dovetail. All right, I'm feeling good about that. Step 1 is done, and that is to get our mortise set for the back of this thing. All right. And change over to the cut. If I did this right, could go in there. Open too much. Okay. Now I want to work on the face that's ultimately going to be our arena floor. So this is the part where I'm going to make a concave curve down to the center and leave myself about 3/4 inch on the outside to glue my stadium ring to. So obviously I've got to get down now. Again, I'm going to take a little bit off the face of this because number 1, I've got plenty of thickness to work with, and number 2, it gets rid of some of that slightly punkier wood that's out on the very face of. And here, I really don't have to worry too much about going all the way across because I'm going to take that center out anyway. So really, I just want a good flat 3/4 inch or so. And then I'm going to establish where my arena floor is going to start. So I'm going to take my parting tool and just establish a divot down into it. And all that's doing is kind of telling me where my arena is going, or the edge of my arena is going to be. I've made it a little wider than I usually do, but that'll be fine. Now, all I'm going to start doing is creating a slight curve going to the middle. I don't want it to be too curved too fast, or what happens is the beads won't make it up the hill enough when they start going slower. You still want them to get up of that hill. But I do need it to be down enough that all the beads run together right in the center. And the nice thing about having the mortise on the back of it is I'll take these things off the cut when I think I've got the curve about right. And then I'll throw some beads down in there and I'll see if they'll roll into the middle, because that's if they're staying up on the edge and I don't have enough of a curve to get to the middle and such. And this is just basically a repeated process. I do use my straight edge to kind of gauge my depth. I've obviously have the screw hole from the faceplate that I put in there that I've got to get past. So if I stop it, you'll see I still have 4 holes in it that I got to get down past. So I know I got to get at least that depth. I want to get past that point. So I got to go back down below that divot that I put in there, or the dado that I put in there. And I'm comfortable that I've got enough room there. But you do have to remember that you did put a mortise on there, so you don't have this thickness. You've got that thickness less, about 1/8 of an inch or so. And so if I wanted to check my depth, I'd throw this across the face, take this to the center point, figure out where I was. You know, I'm pretty far in there. I probably ought to stop once I get past those little holes. I don't want to go in too much farther than that. Probably one more cut, and then I'll start do a negative Rick scraper or scraper. Right here. That off. So at this point is when I would, and you don't have to do this. You could accomplish a lot of this with sandpaper, because this is just an easy slope as long as you don't have big tear out or anything. I still got just a little bit of depth I need to go to get past those screws. So I think I'm going to take one more cut. I'm going to try not to go too much farther down in the middle, because I am getting pretty close to being where my tendon's coming up, but I got to get those holes out of there. That's the disadvantage of using longer screws, but the advantage is none of you have to eat the wood. None of you caught the wood in your teeth. A little bit on this back edge. There. All right, so that's pretty much satisfied with my curve and everything that I've got there. So then I take a round nose scraper, and all I'm going to do here is just try to make sure I've got a nice smooth curve. And I may have to touch this outer edge later, not right now, but I'm pretty happy with that. And again, as I told you, this would be the point that if I was curious at all, is it going to work? I would just take a few beads and put them on there and see that they do gather in the center. And they're rolling to the center. If I sand this, they'll roll even better, but they got to the center. They got where I wanted to be. So I'm fine with that. And pretty much the cutting for what I'm doing right now on this is done. But I got to mark my divots, or where where I'm going to drill the holes. I did not bring a pencil. Here's one. Hard one. All right. So I found if you go too far out with the holes, you get you you won't get as many beads out there, because after the top starts losing its momentum, then they aren't really going all the way up, and they're just kind of coming back. So I found that this is about exactly at 6 inches. So I'm going to put them at about a ½ inch in from there. Actually, no, I'm going to put them in about 3/8 of an inch. I'll probably modify the thickness here when I get to cutting the last of the stadium wall. I'll show you. I'm going to come in on the inside and kind of marry the two pieces together on the inside edge. But so it really doesn't matter. I mean, this is totally up to you, but I got it at about 5½ inches, I think, is the overall diameter here. Mark my circle. This is how technical I am on this. Well, that looks like that's straight up and down. That looks like that's straight up and down. That looks like that's pretty much across from it. And that's about halfway. And well, if I split that in thirds, I'd be about right there and about right there. There's that marking. Here's one over here, and let's do that in thirds, and boom. All of a sudden, I got 12 points. Are they exactly apart? I don't know. I've taken calipers and measured between them and kind of made some adjustments, but I don't care if they're exact or not. They're just 12 marks on there. So now I've got my 12 marks on my arena floor. This is the point. I would sand it before I even put my pencil line on there, or you'd sand your pencil line away, but I'd sand it, sand the face of it so it's nice and smooth. I would go into the drill press, and let's see. Rob, can you go onto that PDF, and it's one of the last slides, and it's got the drill bit going down into the stadium floor right here. So as you can see, when I'm drilling these down, I'm stopping about the point where that front edge, because you've got an angle. So when that front edge makes a full circle, I stop, and that gives me kind of a backboard on the back edge, but it gives that front edge, it doesn't drop into something. It just slides into there and then stays. So the trick on the drilling is don't drill things too far, but you got to drill down to the point where you get a full circle. At one point while you're drilling, because you're going into an angle, it's going to look like an oblong or an ellipse, and then slowly it goes to a full circle. And when you get that full circle right on that front edge, stop, and that's where you want that's the depth that you want your drill to go in. So I won't be drilling that one tonight. The next thing I would do is, okay, I've got this piece pretty much done. Imagine that I've already got the holes drilled in there. Then I'm going to go in and do my outside stadium wall, which is just basically cut an outer ring out of this piece and then securing it to the other piece. And this one, I don't care where the screws go because I'm not using anything in that diameter anyway. First thing I'm going to do, round it all off. Try to basically make an outside diameter that matches the outside diameter of the arena that we just put together. All right. I didn't do center very good on that one. We'll get there. Y'all still with me? Oops. All right, that seems round and should be pretty darn close to our round on this one. It's a little less, but that's okay. We're good with that. So now I'm going to face that off so that it's nice and flat, because that first 3/4 of an inch is really all I'm working with. But I need that one to be nice and flat so it'll flatten up with this, which one thing I forgot to do, I faced that off. So we should have a flat face there because we want two flat faces going together. There. Good enough for my tolerance. Okay. So now we've got a circle we're going to turn into a ring. Man, I just through there. And the ring inside diameter ideally will be about exactly what your inside diameter of this inner ring right here would be. So let me check that. Right there. I'm not Mr. Accurate, I'm just Mr. Close. Let's see. All right. So I'm going to take this, ultimately, I'm going to take this cutoff tool and I'm going to part this all the way through and cut this ring off. And that's what my goal is. But there's a couple of things that I like to do with that ring as I'm doing that. And that, this I found is a good time to put a little bit of a curve on your interior curve on your stadium wall. It's a pretty easy time to do that. So I don't want to go all the way through there, but I can get close. And then different ways that I've went in and made that interior curve. Looks like I'm going to use this today, and I'm just going to what I'm doing is creating a curve like that. That's going to be the interior curve of the stadium wall to kind of throw the beads back out into the middle of the arena. It's kind of hard to see unless Phil, I don't know if you're getting that. And I'm leaving myself some thickness on the backside so that then I can do a little inset. So if I want to put any plexiglass or put a lid on it, I have to do it. But what I've got now is a straight line curving like that to kind of create the inside of the stadium. And now I'm going to just go ahead and part this through so that I end up with a ring. Actually, there's a little bit right here. All the way over. Now, when I get close here to the back side, I kind of start to listen to that sound difference, because if I can, I'll stop it before it totally parts off. But the couple times that it's parted off, it parts off and it spins back here and it's fine, but I never know where it's gonna potentially go. There, that's the spot. It got wobbly and then it just popped off there. Okay, so now I've got a stadium wall. It's got a nice curve on it. I've got more thickness than I need, but I can take that off the top, no problem. So I would take that and I would put this back on. Well, it doesn't have to. You can glue it like that, set something heavy on it and let it glue up. Remember to drill your holes before you do that, because this typically oversails a little bit of where you're drilling straight down. So I got those two things together. I would rotate so that my grain was, you know, going the right direction, and then I would just glue and clamp, and then they're ready for then the second turning, which is by the miracle of radio right here, where I got the holes drilled. I have actually sanded the bottom of it. I've got the top glued on. I've got more thickness than I need. Now all it is finishing the outside shaping and figuring out what I want to do with the overall form or look of everything. Two pieces really fast. Boom, you're done. Glue up, probably let it stay for overnight if you can. But I think this one, after a couple hours, I put it back on the lathe and it was, or one of the other ones that I did, and it was ready to go. So I've glued these together. They're probably, it should somewhat still be on center because of the mortise connection there, but I've probably got a little wobble out here and stuff that I got to take care of, cut down. I've got plenty of outside thickness. I don't know what I'm going to do with that right now. So we'll start out there and take some of that down. And this is when you start thinking about, okay, what do I want for a shape? I don't. Let's say we flare out, kind of make it look like a bowl. And then we'll worry about the rest of that later. What do we want to do here? This is where you're literally just playing at this point. I want to make that 210 there. Yeah, just go in and angle through the whole thing here. How do you get your fiber, Chris? Oh, I stand in front of the turnings and eat the dust. I did start to, on the bottoms, this outer edge, maybe 3/4 of an inch or so in, I started kind of rounding it off. And the reason I did that was so that I could just kind of knock it on the table and pop all the beads out and let them go in the center. So it's not necessary, but it does, I do like to kind of inset that bottom a little bit because it'll make it look more like it's kind of floating on the table a little bit. But all this is just literally designed stuff. So right here, I might put a little bit of a curve on it right there so that I can lock the base pretty easy. Up here, let's do a little Little something for design. I don't know what we'll do here. I'll just put I didn't think too much about that, so don't shoot me for my design work there, but try to get through this. And I'm going to let that edge stay more or less right where it's at and then dive it down a little bit from there. So right here, I'm going to make what I did on one of the other ones at a time. Like having this little detail out here that the beads can set in. But this part of it is true, pure design. Whatever you want to do, you know what you can't take away, and you know what you have there to work with. So this is where your design will alter from my design, which is a good thing. This is dope. I think I must have dropped that tool on the floor. So it's terrible. Go back to this. Next one. The overhang I have on this one is way more than I want. So I'm going to take and open up that center diameter some. Let's go a little bit more. And I still feel my curve going in there. That's good. So right now, the thing that I would do is, and you know, I don't know the right tool to go at this with. I like this Kevin Neely hollowing tool, but I think you could do it with probably a round nose scraper or something. But what I'm going to do is try to get and just make sure that I've got a good marriage between where the stadium is glued to the floor. Right now, there's a little lip there, and I'm just going to try to get that taken off and then continue that curve that I've already established there. And then I'm pretty much where I want to be. I better stop there because no, I still got some thickness. I was worried about this wall getting a little too thin. I still got some thickness. I do like to have enough space behind the hole that another bead can go behind it. Doesn't have to, but I tend to, that's kind of my judge of hole of space. This one I probably can go out just a little bit more. And then the final step of this would be to put sandpaper to it. Go in here, sand that curve, sand your hard edges, sand all this down. Literally, at this point, you have your workable stadium. So other than the glue time, which, you know, you go watch a TV show and let glue, that's the kind of time that's in this. You know, it's an hour and a half. You got something that you can go play with. Few balls. One fell in the hole. Trust me, two fell in the hole. Trust me, yeah. Okay, so it's still going. There, all three that I put in there went in the hole, so obviously it's perfect. But easy, simple, put as much time into, you know, the design as you want to. It can be real simple. The idea is that it's just something that kind of sets around. You go and you dink with it. You all hopefully were here and saw Jerry's top demonstration. So again, I've got setups already glued. I made them pretty thick because I wanted that you have the ability to have a little bit more weight to them. Some of them are maple, some of them are the cutoffs from the sycamore that I had. And then, like I said, I got about 10 of them that are, if anybody wants to try them, are the solid surface material. And it's kind of fun to turn. You can't get too aggressive on it, but it turns real easy. It's a little messy. So everybody come up that would like to, I'll stay up here, talk to you through anything. Got a question? Ah. The photo that had the drill bit also had the top on there, because that is true. There's a key to it. The beads move because of the wedging that happens when it goes down and it gets wedged in there and then it pops it out. Oh, it's the last slide, or one of the latter slides. I'm sorry. Right here, right here. Okay, top tips. Bead size will determine the height of the spinning top. So you cannot make the bottoms of your top. You can't make your tips like a, you know, a real pointy and tall tip, because if they're taller than your beads, it's going to go in there and the beads are going to spin around this bottom and they'll never shoot out. Trust me, I've seen it. Weight, and then I found just a simple straight on curve is perfect. Again, keep this piece, the tip, smaller than your bead, and then when it gets in there and wedges, we'll spring them right out of there. I've got different diameters on what I'm doing, or not diameters, but different curves on my bottoms. And then like this one, I created little wedges kind of across the top of it. It didn't work as well as I thought it would, but I think it's because I had this too tall, so it had to get right into there before it was even shooting out. So you might have to play a little bit with the tops, but that's straightforward. I mean, just get a good spinning top and come have at it. Folks, that's really it. Another question, Kris. Yes, there's no reason you couldn't do this out of a thicker piece of wood, but getting that curve, I'm actually going over the point where if I was drilling, I'd be drilling straight down. So that allows me to get that. The first ones that I made were out of one piece solid wood. I found it real easy though to, number one, you can really easy make a decorative type ring that you can set in there on, for the upper part, but it was just so much easier to construct and everything out of two. Then I'm starting with 2 3/4 inch boards and, flat wood you can find. In fact, a lot of the ones that I started with, this one was made out of a couple of pieces of, I'm not sure, oak, I think. Yeah, red oak, I believe. That was in a dump, or in the trash, not trash pile, but there's a box at Shooty Lumber where they put cutoffs and things in that, you can go grab them and go up and ask them how much they'll take for them. And literally every time I've done that, they've said, "Oh, just take it, that's fine." But I've gotten, 2 or 3 little boards that I could use then for nothing, walk out, and then you got something to work with. So again, it was kind of finding some ways to use some of the flat wood that I had around, and the smaller pieces didn't have to, less turning. I work at an interior architecture firm, and so we have a resource library, and that happened to be a brand that we are stopping that we weren't sourcing anymore. And I had a whole case of just different ones. And so I had extras. Thought I'd make some up. Yes. I have, yes, just probably about maybe an inch bigger diameter, like 8-inch. It was one of the first ones I did, and I actually had a plexiglass top, and it was really, really sweet. I gave it to my nephew. But what I do find is your top and the action you can get off your top kind of, there's a limit to, you know, how far you're going to shoot out for a long period of time. Because I'll start some of these things spinning, and I mean, I'll walk away and they'll be spinning for a minute or two and still spitting beads, you know. So I hope that answered that question. Yeah. The sweet spot is really just in making sure that you get that wedge of the bead, so you're not taller than the bead with your top. Or I've watched them just sit there and spin around and go, come on, they don't do anything. Any other questions? All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Oh, got a question? The challenge for next month is make a top game. I don't care if it's this top game. Make a game that you use a top in. This is an easy one. We've done ones where there's a disc with one hole in the center of it, and you try to, you know, get your top to land in the center hole and stuff. So there's a lot of different things. Look out online, you can find different ideas. But in fact, don't even worry about the top. Just make a game. Make some kind of turning that is a game. I don't care what it is. Just something fun. It's, you know, simplicity is always good, but we'll take ornate. We'll get you demonstrating it, get it ornated. Okay, so I think that gets us through the demo portion. Let's take a break. I'll stand over here. Anybody that wants some, come up and grab some free giveies. And Mike will be selling some dollar sweepstakes tickets. We'll reconvene here in about 10 minutes and get through the challenge and the show and tell. Now, if you use the Corian, this micro kind of stuff is the way to polish.